Okay, well that's been running for a while now, so I should be able to right click on my recording and choose dump. And actually I'll choose the dump the last part of the recording. That will give us the last 5 minutes or so. It'll take just a moment to open up. Okay, and this is now opened up, and this first page I think is rather interesting. It gives us some red, amber and green statuses for potential issues in our applications. And we've got some reds and some ambers in here. Let's have a look at the first of these reds, primitive to object conversion. And well, I'll leave you to read this if you like, but it's telling us that we are using a java.lang.integer, which is taking up a lot of memory, and it would certainly be better if we were using primitive types in this particular instance. So that's something we could go and change in our application. Let's have a look at the ambers, and this first one I think is interesting, threads allocating. This is telling us that there's probably a problem with the primes generator thread. Again, I'll leave you to read through this. Method profiling is telling us which of our methods are being called most often. So if we could improve the performance of these methods, we'd get better performance overall. Now, the instances down here are lock instances and Java blocking. These are telling us, again, I'll leave you to read the detail if you want of these two, that there is a potential issue with blocking. So again, that's similar to what we saw in the Embedded server. It's just in textual format. There's definitely some kind of problems here in terms of this application's performance because there are some threads that are being blocked. So let's go a bit deeper then, and we know we want to look at the threads. So on the left hand side here, I'm going to choose threads from the list of things we could choose. And what gets generated on the right here is a table with the status of the thread over time shown as this sort of graph on the right hand side. Now, I always find it's easier to look at a much smaller time frame of this graph to understand what's going on. So I'm going to do that, and the way you do it is simply by dragging and dropping over the timeline that appears at the bottom here. So let's pick around about a half a minute. We'll go from 1:15 to around about 1:15 and a half. It doesn't matter exactly. Then we can right click and choose zoom to selected range, and now we've got a much more detailed graph for the particular range, which means we can see different color changes over time. So let's understand what these colors are, and I think we could do with finding the threads that we're interested in here. So we've got the main thread, the Fibonacci numbers thread, and actually, as you've seen, as you click on each of these threads, you get to see the status of just that one thread over our timeline. So the main thread appears to mostly be blue. Blue is sleeping, that's the meaning of that, and as you can see that there's some thin lines here, meaning that every so many seconds the thread is doing something, but generally it's in a sleeping state, which is what we would expect. If we look at our Fibonacci numbers thread, that is entirely green, and green means everything is fine, that thread is running. If we go to the combined numbers thread, that thread is mostly pink with the odd little bit of green in there. So it does run from time to time, but mostly it's pink. And actually, if you hover over any of this part, you do get a meaning for what the colors are. So here it's telling us that the pink color is it has been blocked. And in this instance, in this particular place, that thread was blocked for 6 seconds. That is definitely bad. That tells us there's a definite problem to do with this thread being blocked. Hovering over here also will tell us, hopefully, what it is that is blocking this thread. So this is the combined numbers thread, and it appears to be being blocked by the prime numbers task. So prime numbers task is blocking the combined numbers task. That's the hint or the starting point for us trying to fix the problems with our application.